Hello, everyone. This is Brother Macbeth. Welcome to CSE 110, Introduction to Programming. This course is intended for people who want to write software, but they don't know how to write code yet. We're going to start with the basic and fundamental principles of coding. There are many programming languages available for us to use. We are going to learn the Python programming language in this course. Python is a great first language to learn. By the time you graduate with your certificate or your degree, you will know 3 or more different languages. If you've ever learned how to do something brand new before, then you know it requires practice to become good at it. Programming requires a lot of practice. You will make lots of mistakes, just like me. Remember, you are just starting your journey into software development. By the end of the course, the goal is to have some confidence in writing simple software. This is a quick 7-week course with a new topic and assignment every week. We will be doing learning activities, group activities, quizzes, coding assignments, and reflections. Pay close attention to the due dates so you don't fall behind. Remember that you should be asking questions when you don't understand something. Today is always a better day to ask instead of tomorrow. Let's take a look at what you will be doing during this first week. So here is our iLearn homepage. Scroll down here, we see all of our weeks. We're going to start here on week 1. All right, big long list of stuff. What do we need to do? Make sure you go watch the How to Be Successful in Online Courses if you haven't done that in a previous class. Tools and setup. This is what we're going to focus on in the video today, getting all your software installed on the computer. Signing up for a group, we'll look at that as well. Learning activities. So this is where you're going to learn how to code. This will be the instruction. There's lots of videos in these readings, so take advantage of that. There is a quiz that you'll submit saying that you've completed the learning activities. There's also a quiz called Check Your Understanding. This is going to ask you questions about what you learned. Remember here that you can take this quiz 3 times. So if you don't get a very good grade, go back and study the material a little bit more and then take it again. That's the reason there are 3 takes on the quiz. And then the individual activity. Normally this is going to, in other weeks, this will say the group activity. But we're not going to start group activities until week 2. So this week, it's an individual activity. You'll write some code as instructed in the assignment, and the solution will be available to you to look at as well. You'll take a quiz to say that you completed it. The big thing every week is going to be your project. There'll be a project every week. This one's called Clever Story. It's really, if you've ever played the game Mad Libs, where you pick some words and you pick some random words and you put them into a story, and the story sounds all funny. It's a great way to learn some basic input and output in software. And at the end of the week, reflection. How did it go? What went well? What didn't go so well? What questions do you have? And remember, if something's not going well, email me. Don't just put it in the reflection. Email me as well so that we can work on it together. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, we're going to look at tools and setup in this video. All right, we'll click on this link here to open up the instruction page. There's a lot of material here, okay? Now, what are we going to do? It says up here some of the key things that we need to have done to set up our computer properly. We're going to install Visual Studio Code. That's where you're going to do all of your coding. It's like Google Docs or Microsoft Word. It's an editor, but for coders, a little bit different. We're going to install Python. Python 3 is the programming language. We might code in Python, but we need Python to run the Python code. So we're going to install this so that we can run our program. And Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams is how we're going to communicate with our questions. And you'll also use Microsoft Teams for your group activities. It has a video sharing feature in there that you will use. This is a common type of tool that's used in industry. Microsoft Teams, Slack, these tools are used by business teams, programmers, to communicate because it takes a lot of programmers to write software. All right, so if I scroll down a little bit here, you can see a lot of reading and some videos that you can watch. Encourage you to read and watch these videos. When we get down to the bottom here, we have all the links that we're going to need, plus this down here from Microsoft Teams. So let's begin. We're going to click on the first one here, Visual Studio Code. Open it up in this tab over here. So when you click on that link, it's going to give you a bunch of options for installation. If you're running a Windows machine, you're going to want to say Windows. If you're running Mac, an Apple computer, you're going to want to click over here. If you're using Linux, you're going to want the one in the middle here. Okay. Ideally, you have Windows 10 or 11 on your computer. If you have an older machine, and you're having trouble installing, please let me know and we'll try to figure that out. Do note that a mobile phone will not work. So for doing coding, you'll need a laptop or a desktop. And something with a relatively new operating system is always a good idea. You'll be doing a lot of coding in the next several classes. Okay, so I'm going to click on Windows because I am running a Windows machine. Now it started my download, it says, and in Chrome, the downloads show up here, so I'll wait for that download to finish. I remember when I was in college, it took much longer to download anything. The internet was sort of a new thing when I got into college. Now we're spoiled. Everything's sort of fast. All right, there it is. I'm going to click on that so that we can install. Let me get this on the screen for you. Okay. So I am going to accept the agreement. I'll pretend to read there. There we go. And I'll say next. Where is it going to get installed? Now, it's a general rule. Now that you're going to start learning how to do software, pay attention to where things go. It can be useful in the future when you're trying to solve harder problems. This is where we want it. Wherever it says is going to be okay. And we're going to say next. And it's going to, the folder already exists for me because I just uninstalled it, but it kept the folder. You probably won't see that message. But if you do, go ahead and say yes. That'll be the name. Leave that okay and say next. You always get a whole bunch of options here. If you want a desktop icon, go ahead and click right here. It will get put into your start menu. I'll say next, and it's ready to go. Install. Curious thing, isn't it? You need software to write software, right? You need software to write it. You need software to run it. You need software to deliver it. You need software to do everything else. It's a curious thing how we've changed over the last 20 years here. Look at all those files. I always wonder who writes all those files, right? One day it'll be you. All right, just about finished. All right, I'm going to say leave this box checked, launch it, finish. And there it is. There it is. Okay. You won't see all these recent things over here. That's because I've used this tool a lot on my machine, but you should see something generally like this. Sometimes the top border looks a little bit different depending on the computer screen size and stuff like that. But in general, you should see this. All right, we're going to leave this alone. I'm going to minimize it here, and we're going to come back to the course setup and do the next thing. This is going to install Python. So I'm going to click on this one. Now, the Python website is going to analyze what kind of computer you have and suggest the best thing to install. So usually, no one will have any problem just selecting this button. So I will install Python 3.12.1. You notice in the reading it says Python 3. Previous to Python 3 was Python 2. And there was some changes made between the two. So if you wrote software for Python 2, it doesn't work in Python 3. So it's always a big deal if you're working with really old Python code. We will work with new Python code. All right, so I think we get our download up here? Let's see. Yes, we did. All right, click on this. All right, install. You don't need to customize your installations, okay? You might in the future as you become get more experience using these tools. But for right now, we're just going to say install now without any changes. And for me, it's asking whether or not I want to install it. If you see those windows pop up, okay to say yes because you're the one installing it. And this will take just a couple of moments. While that's installing, another interesting note, if you want to, if for all the different languages that you learn, you have to get the tools for those languages. On my computer right now, I got tools for Python, JavaScript, C++, C Sharp, Kotlin, Rust, and maybe something else hiding in there. Um, it's really a neat thing. Now you're going to be in a special club here of people who know how to use all of these tools and one day build the software. My last job before teaching, I was an avionics engineer developing software. We developed software for the Boeing 787 and the Airbus A350 for their hydraulic systems. And it's really neat to write code like that because then you look up in the sky, you see one of those planes, is that my code is up there right now. Sometimes that scares me a little bit that my code is up there. But there's sometimes a lot of software that we write that the world takes for granted. They don't even realize that someone had to code that. So it's a neat place to be. I like to think of it as my creative outlet. It's like painting or something like that, right? I can't paint. In fact, I'm really not very good at any graphical design in any of my software. Um, looks like we're almost done. A few more things. Almost there. It's always the last one that takes forever, right? So once this finishes, our next step is probably to install the extension for Python in Visual Studio Code. We'll see that link here in a minute. There we go. All right, we're not going to do anything else on here. We're just going to say close, and it's finished. Okay, let's come over here now. The third link. So Visual Studio Code is just a nice, really nice editor. It needs to be told how to work with Python or any other language. That's what this link is for. I'm going to click on this link here. This is the Python extension for Visual Studio Code. A lot of people have installed this, 108 million. You'll be one of them. Let's click on install. Now, it needs to open up the tool. So you may see messages like this, open Visual Studio Code. I will do that. And then a tab's going to open up here, kind of like what the website showed. This is the extension. See this little blue box right here? Install. That's what we need to do. We'll press install. We'll wait just a moment for that to install. So while that's installing, take a look at the left-hand side here if you haven't used this before. The first thing, Explorer, this is where we're going to see our files, where we're going to write our code. A search thing. Source control. You'll start to play with this when you take CSE 210. A debugger. I think in CSE 111, you'll get to play with that a little bit. Yep. Extensions. We're installing an extension right now. It'll show up right in here once it's installed. And then these are some other things that you probably won't use. There we go. It's finished. All right, so I'm going to close this little tab up here. Now, since I have all the stuff for coding done, we should try to test it, okay? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to come up to File here, and I'm going to open a folder, okay? Now, this folder that I'm going to open is going to be the place where you're going to put all of your code for CSE 110, okay? So you got to pick a place. You can put it in your My Documents area. You can put it anywhere. In fact, I think I'll do that today, since that's what most students end up doing. I'm going to go to my Documents folder here, and I'm going to click on this button, New Folder. You could create the folder outside of the tool, but we can also do it right here, New Folder. And I'll call this thing CSE 110, not 111, CSE 110. And I'll say, press enter on that, so it's been created, and then select the folder. Now watch what happens. Visual Studio Code is going to open up that folder right over here on the left-hand side, but there's nothing in it right now. Well, we just created the folder, right? So we're going to do a quick test to see if everything's working right. So we're going to write a little bit of Python code. There we go. This button right here, see the little plus right there, new file. You can also find this up here, new file. I'll click the little button here, new file. We're going to do a program called Hello World. Every programmer, when they learn a brand new language, they do Hello World. I do that for new things that I'm learning as well. I'm going to call this program Hello. Now, this is the file name. I'm going to put a .py at the end. Py stands for Python. If you see a .py file, you know that it's Python code. And press enter. There we go. Now, over here on the right is where I'm going to write my code. Okay. Now, the goal of Hello World is to display the message, Hello World. Okay. So to do that, we need to know a command to have the computer display the words Hello World. When we're writing software, all we're doing is we're commanding the computer to do something. But we got to be very specific, because the computer is not a real person, right? And so it needs to be told exactly what to do. Now, granted, with AI, we're starting to see all sorts of blurring of that line a little bit. But as we're learning how to code here, we got to be very precise. The command in Python to tell the computer to display something is called print. So I'm going to write the word print right there, okay? And look, it's displaying some helpful information. But now we got to say what to print. If you've taken a math class, you may have seen something like a function that says f of x equals x squared, right? Well, that x thing, let me write that down right here. F of x equals x squared, something like that. This x right here is the input into here, right? It's what we're going to square to get the result. In programming, we see a very similar structure. We're going to call the print command and use parentheses to say what we want to print. Okay? So I want to say hello world. Now, I can type hello world like that, but it's going to complain. Okay? When we want to print out a string, which is a collection of letters or numbers, characters, we use double quotes. Now, Python can also do it with single quotes. When you see me code, I'll probably just always do double quotes. So we put double quotes around the phrase hello world. And that's it. That's all of our code. Now, while we were coding, if you look way down at the bottom here, Visual Studio Code, because we installed the extension, it figured out that we're running Python 3.12.1. That was the thing that I installed earlier. If you're ever having trouble with Python, trying to run it, look down here at the bottom and say, do I see a version of Python down here? Does it say Python right here? Maybe we didn't put a .py at the end of our file. That's how Visual Studio Code knows. Okay. All right, with it there, I want to run it. Visual Studio Code has a little play button in the upper right-hand corner over here. It says run the Python file. So I'll press play. Now down at the bottom, the terminal is going to show the results. And this is what it means to command the computer to display something. No graphics here, no little windows popping up. No, it's just some text right here. Just about everything you're going to do as you're learning how to program will look like this. Output displayed down here in the terminal. That's the beginnings of things. Later on, you get to learn how to do all the cool graphics and stuff. All right, it's working, good. The last thing that we need to do is make sure that we are able to communicate in teams. So I'm going to come back over here. Oh, oops, forward. And let's get back to that screen again. I moved away from it. Get back all the way down here. We've installed all three of these things now. Now this step 2. Teams or Slack. In this class, we're going to use Microsoft Teams. So that's what we need to install. So we're going to click on this first link right here, and then click on Introduction to MS Teams. All right. Good thing to read through all this stuff right in here. You want to pay attention to this link right here, okay? If for some reason the installation is having trouble, you could use teams.microsoft.com, but we highly encourage you to click on this link to install the app, okay? Okay, so download app for desktop. If I click on that, it just moves me down. There are 2 versions of Teams, Teams for Home and Teams for Work or School. Your computer might have Teams for Home installed. That's not what we need to use. We need to use this one over here, okay? So we're going to download Teams app, and you got to select what you're using. Windows, ARM64 is going to be for your iOS products. So I'm going to click Windows 64-bit because that's what I am. And it's downloading. Give that a click. All right, so here's the installation. Work or school, and that's what we wanted. Install Teams and launch when ready. Sure, that sounds good, so I'll say install Teams. So it's going to install a few things here. Really fast at the end there. All right. So here is what we get. Wait for it to load. Now this tool requires an account. You have to have a Windows account, okay? I already have one through BYU Idaho. In CSE 110 with Pathway Connect, you don't have a BYU Idaho address yet. So we got to do it a little bit differently. You're going to need to create or use another account. Now, there's 2 options here. If you already have a Microsoft account that you use, then you can type it in here. But really important, the email address for that account needs to be the same email address that you have in your Pathway records. So the email that you use with Pathways needs to match. If you go into iLearn for the course, you can see your email in there as well. So if you have that, great, you can just log in immediately. Okay, if you don't have that, or if it's on a different email, we need to say create an account. All right, here is where you're going to put your email address that you have with Pathway. And then and for many of you, there's Gmail accounts, there's Yahoo accounts, Hotmail accounts, all kinds of emails out there. You just put that email address in there to create your account with. Now, I'm not going to go any further on this screen with that. When you do next, you'll finish all the sign up for it for your account. When you're done, then you're going to be able to use that account. And I believe it will show your account once you use it in the list now. I'm going to click on mine. When you open it up, you won't see as many things as I will have. I have lots of teams in here. But hopefully what you will see, so long as you use that correct email address that you gave to Pathways, you'll see this one right here. CSE PC 110, Winter 24, Section 1009, online. I'm going to click on that one. This is where we're going to do all of our discussions, questions and answers, working with groups right here, okay? So, in general, I will post things that I also post in iLearn announcements. So you'll see it in both places. So you can stick with email or stick with Teams, whatever you want. The help channel right here is a place where you'll be able to post questions. The whole class will see it. And if you know the answer, then you can answer it for somebody. I'm in Teams all the time, so I'll be watching when you post things and give you help as we go along. Okay, we have Teams ready. Now what we need to do is sign up for a group. Okay, so if I come back over to here in iLearn, group sign up. All right, so if I click on group sign up, it's going to describe how I sign up for a group. And when you look down in here, you're going to see, go to the people tab. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come back over here. And on the left side in iLearn, you'll see people. We're going to click on people. The first tab is going to give you a list of everyone in the class. That can be useful to communicate with people. But groups is where you want to be. You want to select a group, okay? You select a group based on your availability. We have groups that are going to meet on Thursdays and on Wednesdays. All of the times here are mountain time, so you're going to have to adjust for your time zone. Okay, make sure you do that and double check that you did it right. You'll select which team you want to join. There's a maximum of 6 students per team, and so there should be enough room for everyone in here. Once you've selected a team, okay, and you've connected there, then you want to go back to Microsoft Teams and click on hidden channels. There's a lot more. In fact, there's 20 of them. There is a channel for every team, okay? So you're going to find your team. Let's say you pick Thursday, 3 p.m. Mountain Time. You're going to click on these 3 dots there and say Show. And then I'm going to hide the hidden channels again, and now it's here. This is where you're going to say hello to your group. This is where you're going to have your team meetings starting in week 2. This is where you can help each other out on assignments and teach others and receive help. So that's Microsoft Teams. So that is what you need to accomplish during this first couple of days. Please try to set up your development environment as soon as you can. Once it's done, then you get to focus on learning how to code, which is the best part. I'm excited to work with you this term, everyone. Have a wonderful day.